Hey guys, once again, welcome to Static Talks. Today I have a special guest with you guys, but in this case, we're going to do it a little bit different. And, just because it was our guest request, we're going to start off with the shot. He loves tequila, so I like tequila too, bro, so appreciate it. Thank you for having us here in your house. We're in the sunniest city on earth, and what better than doing it with a friend, and sure, let's take a shot.
Thank you for coming out to my house. I feel like you're making me look like an alcoholic, and I'm definitely not one. I just like tequila, but...
No, who doesn't, brother? No. Cheers, man.
Cheers. I need a little bit of lemon.
And some lemon. So, if the owner of Classes was watching this, man, we love your stuff. We have a lot of respect.
Yes. Invite us over to your facilities.
Yeah, we would love
Check
that.
them out.
100%. So today's special guest, guys, he's been homeless as a child, with his mom. He's also lived in a shelter. He's he came into the United States illegally for 2 years as a child. He's been through struggles as far as, struggling through the day and having, eating only squash for the day to eat. There's definitely been a lot of fights. I mean, he started off started working in Burger King. As well, he started to work in the cashier, built his way up to being a manager. Now, the years went by and he built a business, been in business for many years, I believe, business for
decades, yeah.
For over, quite a few decades. After that, he's been a real estate investor. He flips hundreds of homes, and he kept a few homes, quite a bit of homes, and he'll talk a little bit more about that. He's an exotic car collector, so I know he has a few good cars that, you guys, I'm sure you guys love cars. So, he loves to collect cars as well. And I know he flips a few of them and exchange them, and a great person as well. And, we work out in the gym here and there, so, I know him for quite a bit, and I'm excited to have, Miguel Flores, here on our podcast today, brother. Thank you for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
No.
I'm excited. This is my first podcast that I have ever done. I've been asked before, but I just kind of either blow it off or just say yeah I'm gonna do it. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that it's with you.
No, thank you, man. Thank you for giving us the time, because I know you're also up and down, and you got quite a few things that you take care of, and for having us here in your home as well, and that means a lot. So, man, like what a history, man. I know, it wasn't easy, especially coming. We talk a lot about in the show, like people that come from a different country and they come to the United States. Like it's a different drive, right? It's not the same as you were born in the United States. You kind of come from a family that are, that gave you handouts, that, gave you a school, that, you already have a home, you have a roof on your head, definitely. Some of the things that we like to talk about, and, to talk to people as well that are watching the audience, because, some people are like, hey man, like I'm struggling, like I'm living day by day, and I don't know, if I'm going to be able to make it for the next month, or I don't know how I'm going to do it with the next couple of years. But, just seeing examples like yourself, like, there's situations where, like you said, there's points where you were homeless to now, having, being in the level that you're at, as success that you have had as a career, now where you don't really have to worry about that anymore,
So I did come to the United States from Mexico when I was about to turn 2. We came here from, I was born in Mexico City.
Yeah.
So we came here when I was 2, and I was actually homeless. Well, it was a few years, but I was here in the country legally from the time I was 2 to the time I was about 7.
Yeah.
That's when we, my mom and I both got green cards, and, thanks to Ronald Reagan. Shout out to Ronald Reagan.
Big shout out.
Anyways, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I got to the United States, is we basically came here, on a visa, and, basically overextended our visa and just stayed here. And then, we were, illegals. It was kind of difficult. At first we came with some relatives. We stayed with some relatives. after a while, that kind of gets old. So then my mom was working at a daycare, and the daycare would let us stay at the daycare. So I would have to wake up at, the daycare opened at 6, so I'd have to wake up like at 5:30 and kind of pretend like I was the first one. I was always the first one, but I lived there.
Yeah.
And then when the daycare closed, which I don't remember the specifics, but they closed at maybe 6 in the afternoon. At that point, then I kind of loved it there because I could do whatever I want in this, in this pretty big daycare. We lived there. Then we lived in a women's shelter. It was for like women who were maybe battered or didn't have a place to live, didn't have husbands or whatever. We lived there. So, I mean, yeah, growing up, that's kind of the way it was for me.
No. So, and this was all here in Arizona, Yuma, Arizona?
You know what? No, we got to Watsonville, California. Shout out to all people from Watsonville.
Watson.
We live there, it's like a kind of a farming community close to Salinas. So we were there. I was there from the time that I got there, about 2 to 15. And then I moved to Yuma when I was 15 years old.
When you were 15, you came over here, Yuma. And something that is really interesting about you, and the few months that I've been getting to know you, I see like behind you, there's a sense of urgency, right? I know you mentioned that working at Burger King, that's when you decided to make your first investment, right? And I ask you how do you mature so fast, right?
So I will say it was probably thanks to my surroundings.
Yeah.
I obviously, it was very, it was humble stuff that I was around. But also my mom kind of instilled this work ethic in me. When I was about 8 years old, I remember she would send me to the fields down there in Watsonville, and I would pick strawberries or berries or whatever was in season. I had a newspaper route since I was 10. Actually, I had 2 routes, and then I started working when I was 15 years old at Burger King. It's just something that happened. My mom had never owned a house, and I became a manager when I was 18 years old. I didn't graduate high school, and I bought a house. That was the first time that was my first house that I bought. It was when I was 18. It was in Villa Cordova. I still remember, the house, and it was $82,000, I think.
Oh wow. Okay. So that was back in.
So that was I was back in. Shoot, that's a good question. I got to do math.
A few years. No worries.
That's a long time.
It's quite a bit ago. We won't get the exact date, but don't worry about it. So, well, man, that's interesting. And what was the drive behind it? Just because you wanted that American dream, you wanted to provide a house for your mom. You see her struggle. You seen her like you took accountability. It seems like you took like the role as a head of the household and say, now I could work. I have an opportunity, so I'm just gonna get a home. Or what was the drive behind you? Like because typically somebody who's 18 doesn't really want to buy a house right now. They want to buy shoes. They want to buy something, take out a girlfriend or two and blow their money away every weekend. But what set you aside from that?
So I had a kid when I was very young.
Okay.
Younger than 18.
Okay.
And I wanted to provide for them, and at the time, my family, I had a girlfriend and we had a child. So I think that was the drive behind it, is I wanted to do what had not been done for me. Okay. I didn't have a dad growing up, so I never had anybody to kind of look up to or, I guess,
like the role model.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my mom, again, she, we didn't even have a place in the very beginning. We got a trailer later. We lived in a trailer in the back of a house, and then we had like an apartment. So I think it was just the sense of I needed I wanted better for my family. I wanted better for myself.
Yeah.
So that's just what happened. I just kind of stumbled onto it. I bought, that was my first house that I bought, and it was actually a pretty nice house.
Wow. And little that you know that was going to be the first of many, right?
Yeah. From there, I just kind of, I bought another one. The next one I think was in Mesa del Sol. So I bought another one, Mesa del Sol. Then I bought another one in,
So around the area. So going back a little bit back to the story that you're mentioning, like you had the sense of urgency, like you were, one of those few people now that there's out there that said like, hey, I have my family. I'm gonna take ownership of my leadership and my leadership role in my family and as a dad, and I'm gonna give my kids what I would like to have when I was a kid, right? Which is a house, which is somebody they could count on, they could rely on, and you just really play your role, that's important. I think a lot of people nowadays like sometimes are potentially a little bit afraid of taking that role, right? Because it's not easy, but at the end of the day, if you take it like somebody like yourself, like you said, hey, I'm gonna be that example that I didn't have, and that was seems like that was the main drive for you at that time, right? Like you want to work, you want to have your house, you want to be a provider, and that was the first of many, right? Which is pretty interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
That was my first one. That's how it started.
That's where you started your whole real estate career. And then it seems like this is really interesting. And then that you're talking, I've heard a little bit about the story that you were working in Burger King and then you became a manager. And I know you were really competitive. You wanted to be one of the top,
Oh yeah. I was super competitive even at Burger King. My numbers were always good. I think we needed to do those 5 things that we needed to get our bonuses or a full bonus.
Okay.
It was like food costs, labor, waste, that sort of thing, restaurant related stuff. And I mean, I went like years and years and years, like getting, my full bonus and whatnot, just because, obviously it wasn't just me there. There was employees and there was people that participated in whatever I was preaching or selling at that point in terms of, the language I used to get people motivated to, be excited about working in a, burger place.
Yeah.
But with their help, obviously, we reached, those goals. So I was pretty, I guess, successful for, working at Burger King, not having a high school diploma. I think when I started out, I was probably making $40,000 a year, and again, that's how I bought that house, obviously through the bank. And that's
how you started. Wow. And I think this is to dissect a little bit about what you're talking about. Sometimes people now, they think that, it's like, I already want to start at the top, right?
Oh.
And they missed the beginning, right? Which is like, just like you were saying, people take it for granted a little bit, but just like you said, you had an opportunity, you had a vehicle, which was at that moment, it was Burger King. You said, like, I'm sure you checked out your options, like, okay, I'm going to start working there, but I'm not going to, be average. I'm going to try to be good. I'm going to try to make some good money. I'm going to try to figure it out how I could get, my team around me to get excited about what I'm doing and hit whatever goals I got to hit, right? I think that's something huge for everybody that's listening, that, not just, we all want to be at the top. We want to, live the life. We want to drive. We want to have that, a big bank account and things like that. But we get to forget to enjoy, the beginning stages or the stages that we're at, right? And I take that from, what you're saying. And I think that's huge. And a lot of people miss on that, right? It's like, oh, just because I have a job right now, I don't think I'll ever make it to be, whatever vision that they have for themselves or for their family. Like,
I mean, that's a good point. I have people who ask me a lot, actually, how did you do it, or what'd you do? And it's not like it just happened overnight. It's something that happened, with time. And, I had to be patient, and I didn't have to begin, in the beginning I had, I would save some money.
Yeah.
It wasn't very much. But it was something that just was built over, over time. It's not something that happens overnight, at least not for me, and probably for most people.
Okay.
It doesn't doesn't happen overnight. It's something that you have to apply yourself to, and and do it.
And now let me ask you this: from being in, going through the struggles, I'm sure by that time that you were, at Burger King, you were having some success. You were filled. I'm sure you had like some momentum. And where does this idea of opening up a business come from? Because I know you also have been having a business for a few decades, right?
Yeah. So I opened up a bail bond office when I was like in my early 20s, I guess you could say. And it was something that happened. I was pretty much already on my way out with Burger King. I knew I was going to start a business.
Okay.
And what happened is that it's kind of that's not a wild story, but it's kind of a story.
Yeah.
I actually went to jail for driving fast.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, I like cars, whatever. So I was driving fast, and I had never been to jail. I went to jail. I was driving fast, whatever. And I and I don't want to talk about nobody or anything like that, but I couldn't get out of jail at that moment. I called and they said, just wait till the morning. And I said, I don't want to wait till the morning. I've never been to jail. Like, I want to get out. So I realized that there was a need for that. So I don't know, maybe a month or two later, I opened up a bail bond office.
There you go.
And then just started that, here in Yuma. And then, then we opened up in like Phoenix, and then, we started doing bail, all over the place.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it started. But again, it was very, something that happened very slow. The first year, I didn't even make as much as I did like at Burger King. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, the second year we did much better, the third year, so on and so forth, and then we got, we kind of got busy, started making some, okay money.
Some decent money. Started got into more. So yeah, that's really important. I think that's key to a lot of people that, start up their business and people that want to get into that realm and that space. It's like in the beginning, it's not, like you mentioned, like, even from a regular job, you took a little hit, but it took a hit to, to grow right into kind of take your finances to the next level. And I'm sure, like, as a business owner, as a person, you had to grow so much and learn so much to get to run a business, recruit people, to manage people, to handle all the back end attorneys, the contracts, right? You had to one way or another had to, like you said, you don't have any formal education, but you had to educate yourself one way or another, right? Because if you didn't, the more money it costs in business, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
that's true.
Wow. So that's pretty impressive. And so now let me ask you this question. When you decided you knew you wanted to be a business, do you had any role models or somebody that you may watch on TV or somewhere like, man, I want to be like that guy?
I knew I was going to be asked this question.
Yeah.
So I almost wanted to kind of have an answer.
Yeah.
But I don't really have an answer to that. I didn't really have, I guess, a role model. You know what? Let me take that back. Actually, the guy that had an impact on me, his name was can we name him? I don't even know if he's around or not. He was an older guy.
Yeah.
But his name was Bill Curry.
Okay.
And he I think he had like a small percentage ownership in all the Burger Kings or whatever. But for sure, he was like the district manager guy. He would go to all the Burger Kings, and he was just a really honest guy. He would just say what was on his mind, and I just learned a lot from him and the way he kind of thought and the way he thought about business. And he was a little like on the side of like everybody's bad and everybody's gonna try to steal, and so be careful and be aware and look for this and look for that, and so I learned some things from him, but not in terms of to start my own business, or do any of the stuff that I've done.
But it did help you, kind of gain some skills through his leadership, right? Okay.
That's why I took it back, because he is somebody who had an impact on me, and the way he, the way he talked, kind of opened up my eyes to, at such a young age, at 18, 19, I had to grow up quick, and I was kind of mature for my age, and I knew that, things could happen. Not everybody's out to, protect your interest, or you got to kind of protect yourself.
Of course. Okay. And something that, and I know we talked about off cameras too, that, the school of life is one of the most important things, right? Because you could read books and you could get all this information, you could get all this knowledge, and you could watch over and over. And it's good to do it. But if you don't take action, if you don't actually live the experience, then there's no way that you could actually progress, right? And I know, last time, we were having lunch together, and you mentioned something that, when you were experiencing, and you had people, that were in jail, people that, robbed, they in a way, they try to persuade, to convince you to take their bond, right? And I think you've done that so much times that it got you to be able to read some people and some of their wants, right? And can you give us a little more insight on that?
Yes, yeah. So I'll explain. Having that type of business really made me learn a lot about people.
Yeah.
Because think about it, I've bailed out, thousands of people.
Yeah.
I'm not as involved in the bail bond stuff anymore. Maybe since like 2015, but prior to that, that's all I did.
Yeah.
I'm doing bonds at 2 a.m, at 4 a.m, at 7 a.m. I would go home and take a nap, again at 9 a.m, at 1 p.m, at all hours of the day. Yeah. I was doing bonds. So if you think about it, I had to interview some of these people, and some of these people had robbed people. Some of these people had shot people. Some of these people were really good people.
Yeah.
Some of these people were school teachers. Some of these people were border patrol. Some of these people, they were in law enforcement. Some of these people were really, really bad people.
Yeah.
Some of these people had been to jail a dozen times, but they're still good people.
Yeah.
We just, it's basically, you learned about all kinds of different types of people. There's rich people, poor people, everything. So some of these people, some people were trying to, lie and say they can do this or they can do that, or bail me out and I'll do this and I'll do that. So you had to kind of decipher who was, telling the truth, who's being honest. You kind of had to weigh, the risk involved, and then you could bail them out, get them out of jail or not. We also interviewed the family members.
Yeah.
We asked them questions. So we dealt with, or I dealt with so many different people, that with time, after interviewing and talking to thousands of people, you just kind of became really good at understanding how somebody was and what they meant by talking the way they did, or maybe, maybe they were being untruthful. But, you just kind of hear it and you just nod your head and say, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it provided me a lot of, I guess, skills with people, and it helped me later on with, buying houses, negotiating deals. That's where I think I had maybe the edge on other people. Yeah. That I really understood, what certain people's body language was, or the way they talked, or I understood things, something as simple as going to an auction. I understood when somebody was pretty much out. Yeah. They're almost out. I shouldn't even say this because I'm giving a little insight, but I almost understand when they're out. Yeah. Out of the bidding process. So I just knew, like, all right, I just got to go a couple more bucks and I got this. Yeah. Okay. Just from what I learned as a bail bondsman, and just the people's behavior.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's by doing it over and over. And I'm sure there was times where, you regret some of the things that, or decisions, or you believe in somebody, you trusted in somebody, and, it wasn't that. So I'm sure you had your, every time you go back and do the same thing, and like you consult, which is also consultation, right, with them, like you will get stronger, you will get more knowledge, you will have more, you will know how to like filter more people. So therefore it helped you to create a better negotiation skills, right? Negotiation, people skills. And that's what a lot of the time it takes for a business, right? Like you're consulting, you're talking to people, you're interviewing people, you're persuading people, you're doing X, Y, and Z to make sure that a deal goes through or something gets completed, or the tax gets finished, right? But that's pretty interesting. I thought that was really unique, man. I talked to a lot of business owners and a lot of people that, you know, have done, you know, something on a higher scale, and this is something that's definitely different as far as what, you know, I heard in the past. But that's great, man. So you were going back to the business. So you were for 10 years within the business, and then that's kind of when you started to take real estate a little bit more serious, and that's where you...
Yeah, so I probably bought my first house, you know, I guess, you know, like cash or whatever.
Okay.
Again, when I was in my 20s. Okay. And it wasn't a great deal. You know, is at that point, I didn't know how to really buy houses. At that point, it was my first one. So I didn't know how to buy houses, but I had bought some, you know, and like with a regular mortgage and, you know, rented some out. And so I understood that process. And so what happened is that the first house that I had, the one that we talked about, I sold it and I made $19,000.
Oh, okay.
And so I was whatever, 18, 19 years old. And I was like, wow, $19,000, like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I didn't do anything. You know, I put a little tile and, you know, put a little paint, and I got a check for $19,000. So I thought it was like, this is amazing. Yeah. So from there, I kind of understood this is something I want to do, but I couldn't do it competitively because I didn't really have money.
Yeah.
So I did it kind of slowly. I bought another one, and then maybe I rented it out. And then once I was able to buy, I think the first one, I think was like $60,000. Mm-hmm. You know, I bought it. Wasn't a great deal. It's somebody else that understood how to buy houses. It was a guy from San Diego that bought a lot of houses. Yeah. I bought it from him. Okay. I think he paid like $30,000. Oh, okay. Didn't do a thing to it, and said, "Here you go. You know, I'll sell it to you for 60." And I thought, "Oh, thank you.
Good deal."
But you know, whatever. I mean, it's you know, it's part of the process. Yeah. And then from there, you know, I bought one, and then the next year I was like, all right, cool, let me do 2. And the next year let me do 5. And then, you know, and then before I knew it, I was doing about 40. And then, you know, just with time, you know, I mean, yeah, I have bought and sold, you know, hundreds of real properties. Yeah.
Oh, it's impressive. And did you started to, as far as the business, you hire your employees, you had your people of trust, right? After so many years, you build them, you know, you kind of hand it off, and you were just more taking kind of like the higher level decisions, I'm assuming, you know, at this point when you're transitioning and buying 30, 40 properties. And is that something that's the role, or you will?
No, I was pretty much doing it myself. If you're asking if I was delegating to anyone,
yeah,
I wasn't. It was pretty much myself making all the decisions. Back then, I was like really focused on, I would make all the decisions, everything was like, you know, I'm not gonna do anything to it, or I'm just gonna paint it, or put some carpet or whatever. I was making the decisions.
Okay.
So
you were pretty much, I remember you mentioned that too, like you were, a lot of the transactions, it was you being involved, and you had a little bit more control, and therefore, like, there was not too much overhead, so you kept a little bit more, you know, profit, and which I'm assuming it took like 12-hour days, 13-hour days, like.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's one of my downfalls maybe in the last couple of years, if you want to call it that, is that I reached a lot of my goals, and you know, some of the goals that I set myself, you know, it's when I was going to retire, or when I was, I don't know, whatever, 60 years old or 65 or whatever, I accomplished, you know, by the time I was like, you know, 40 or in my late 30s. Yeah. So I wasn't, I guess, you know, I just kind of left things off. I was, you know, a few years ago, I like did everything. Okay. I mean, I worked, you know, in the morning, I worked at night, I worked whatever. I still did bail bonds. You know, if I was at dinner at 7 p.m., and they were like, all right, we got to go do a bond, I'd be like, whoever I was with, I was like, hey, I got to go do this. Yeah. I got to go do this bond or whatever. And I wouldn't give up. I mean, I wouldn't say no to anything. So if I was only going to make $150, you know, on a bail bond, I would go and do it. Yeah. And I'd come back and be like, this is going to pay for dinner.
Yeah.
I got to go.
Free dinner.
Yeah. And now it's not even like that. Now it's like, all right, I dedicate my time to, I coached a lot of soccer and whatnot. And so it's like almost like after 4 p.m., I gotta kind of, but again, I reached some of my goals and I just kind of, but one of my goals now is to get back into doing some other stuff. I think I want to start building houses here soon. And instead of, buying and selling, however many I've done, I think I want to maybe challenge myself and maybe do that next.
Okay.
Even though I kind of didn't want to, for a long time. I want to. I think I want to build a few hundred houses and just to kind of know that,
that you did it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Still young.
It's still, yeah,
I mean,
100%.
I'm super young. I just was acting like I was retired for a minute there.
So I want to go to this question now that you mentioned the whole retiring. And at what point when you started like your business and your career that you thought you're like, man, I'm fucking rich. Like, I'm super like rich, right? Like I'm sure you hit that, point, maybe 5 years or 10 years in, or where do you?
I in terms of being rich, I don't consider myself rich, because the definition of rich varies, right? Your definition is different than mine. I don't know, the person next to me, the person that doesn't have anything, their definition might be $1 million.
Yeah.
So, and somebody who's worth $100 million, their definition of rich could be, $1 billion. So in terms of feeling rich or whatever, I don't feel rich, but I have done well.
Yeah.
But I realized that I was doing well, I guess in my mid 30s.
Yeah. Your mid 30s.
I realized that I was doing well, really well. And that, for the rest of my life, like I was going to be good.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was going to do well, but rich, I don't feel rich.
Yeah. And then the reason that I asked, right, like you said, obviously the perspective of everybody is different, is because, I've interviewed quite a few people and I'm sure they hit like a level where like, you're hustling, you're working, you're putting in the work, you're so ton of vision, you're going after it. And there's that moment when you're like, hey, you made a couple $1 million, right? And you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that happened, right? And then you kind of stagger and you kind of stay like on a little bit comfortable, and then picking yourself right back up. Like, I'm sure you gone through quite a few, right? Where you're like, okay, then now seem like I'm comfortable. I got this in the bank. I got a few properties, a couple investments, and you're just kind of going through the flow, and you're not really as hungry as you were before. So how do you continue to push way beyond when you're like, you looked around and like you said, I think you never really get to feel like fully satisfied with income or in life or whatever, right? But you kind of do get a little bit comfortable. And I'm sure, I don't know if you remember a time when you're like, you look down, like, okay, I'm good. But then it's like, but I got to continue to push. How do you push yourself to the other level? Like where it's like, remember those times?
Yeah. So there was a time, a long period of time, even already where I had, some decent money or whatever, where again, I wouldn't say no to $150, I had to go do a bond, and it was at 3 a.m, and I just went to bed at midnight, and then I have to wake up at 7, and I was only gonna make $150 or whatever. Like, I wouldn't say no. I would be like, all right, because I remembered that when I went to jail for speeding or, whatever, the feeling that I had of like, shoot, nobody wants to bail me out because it's like, you're only going to make $100 or $200 or whatever. So for a long time, I worked very passionately in, the bail bond stuff, and then in the real estate stuff. And then there did come a period where it was kind of me on my own, where I thought to myself, I just want to concentrate on like my kids, and I just want to worry about like them, and that's what I want to do. And I don't really really want to make, whatever money I make or whatever, cool, but I don't, I'm not gonna, I didn't really set myself like a goal. It was more like, I'm making money and I'm good.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of rentals and I got stuff and whatever, like I don't really need to do stuff. But again, now my perspective's kind of changed, and sure, I still want to spend a lot of time with my kids. That's very important. But I also want to challenge myself a little bit.
Okay.
And I think, this is where it's happening right now, where I want to, I just want to do a little bit more. But in terms of what will drive me to do it, honestly, it's just myself. It's just me saying, all right, I've done it this way. Maybe I'm not as happy as I thought I was going to be. And, I want to push for a little more.
Yeah.
And it's just my perspective changing and saying, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And then, on those stages, like you bring a lot more experience and life experience and investments that you've done in the past that have got you where you're at. So therefore, I feel like it will be easier for you to get to higher levels of, financially or physically or in life or whatever it is that you want to accomplish because you bring more.
Yeah.
To.
Yeah. For the, obviously at the beginning, there's a lot of things I didn't know, and I made a lot of mistakes, like we talked about. I didn't really have like mentors. So I just kind of learned by doing stuff, making mistakes, and, and then obviously fixing it and addressing it on the next deal. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier, it's harder to get to like, to get to $100,000.
Yeah.
But once you get to, I don't know, 7 figures, it's really easy to kind of scale that and,
Go from there.
Make a lot more money. Yeah. Because you can diversify and you have different, income revenue streams that you can create. So it is a lot easier. I think it's the beginning that, is a little bit difficult, I guess.
Yeah. So this is a really powerful questions, and we get this question asked a lot. Like when the beginning stages, when people are starting, kind of let's say like, we go back when Miguel was in Burger King, right? Like you're learning, you're hustling, you're working, and some people ask me when they're in the stage or even the audience, they're like, oh, should I invest here? Should I do this? Should I do that? When do you think is the right time to diversify? Something that you said is key. You first took care of yourself, your house, right? For yourself, you buy your first house. That was the first way to invest within yourself. But when do you think is the right moment when you're like, you know what, I'm gonna diversify here and I'm gonna spend this business or I'm gonna do this? Like, do you think there is like a certain amount of income you have to make or a certain amount of experience you have to gain?
So I think one of the more important things when it comes to that, and this is probably a little bit cliche, is to kind of like what you do.
Yeah.
And, number one. Number two is you have to, whatever it is that you preach, you have to yourself do it.
No.
So you can't talk about stuff and you don't do it.
No.
You might as well, if I were somebody like that, I'd shut up. I wouldn't talk about it.
No.
I'd go do it.
No.
And then, for a long time, again, this is why I didn't do any of this stuff, because I don't want to talk to nobody. And I'm doing this podcast because this, I feel, is going to help me in whatever I'm trying to do. And again, if this helps somebody else with whatever, good for them. But this is about, me. This is about challenging myself. I would never in a million years, a couple months ago, would I want to do this. And that's just the reality of it. I just didn't believe in explaining myself or telling people, how to do it or what to do or whatnot. I just thought, you do your own thing. Nobody told me what to do. I just did it. So
your own pet.
So yeah,
Makes sense.
I think that it's kind of doing, what you like. And then the second thing was, shit.
Yeah.
What was the second thing?
So yeah, just you gotta follow. We ask about when is the right time to diversify, but I guess what I get from you is like, kind of go out and make mistakes. If you think it's the right time, you could ask questions and you can learn from people. But I think the best experience is when you go out and you do it yourself. If you think it's the right time for you, then do it. And if it's not going well, then you know how to pivot and how to move according to your situation.
Well, you got to like it. You got to apply yourself to whatever it is that you're doing. Oh, what we're talking about is, don't talk about, something and like, let's talk about realtors.
Yeah.
And believe me, there's a ton of realtors who are really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good, like excellent realtors. It might not sell a lot, whatever, but I can tell that they are very good. They're hungry. They're trying to apply themselves. They're learning.
Yeah.
But where I think the mistake is, for example, if they talk about, I don't know, they do a reel or something about you should buy an investment property, but they themselves don't even have their own house to go to, or, I think that's a mistake. Huge. And I'm not talking about, and I don't want to talk about people. I'm just saying you can't, like, I wouldn't listen to you.
Yeah.
If you're telling me, well, you should buy a rental.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, where do you live? And you're like, oh, well, I rent. Oh, well, why would I buy a rental? Like, I'm not going to listen.
Yes. I'm
going to be like, that doesn't make sense. So I would say that, whatever it is that they're preaching, that they actually do.
The experience, right? Kind of like getting a trainer at the gym and he's not fit. You don't want a fat trainer, right?
Well, yeah, kind of the same. I just would go more with the, if somebody was like a doctor that just graduated versus a doctor that has done, 50 operations, I would go with the one that's done 50 operations,
100%.
So,
yeah. All right, guys. So we're back here with Miguel Flores after his messages. We're talking a little bit about his life story, talking a little bit about his business career, being an investor, and now, flipping quite a few hundreds of homes. And now that we're coming back, I know recently you had, we talked a little bit about getting to levels where, you're like, wow, this is, compared to where was at to be now, where I'm at, like it's impressive. Right. And, like you said, like you had a, hustle, you had to grind, you had to put the extra hours. It was $100, $50, $150, $200. You were there taking the calls and attending people, right? Which is, overwhelming. But that's what it really takes to really get to those higher levels. And I know, you also you have a license as well, right? Your license,
a real estate license.
Yeah.
I do have a real estate license.
Yeah. Wow.
I do. Even though some people don't know. And I do have a real estate license. Yes.
Nice. And so do you practice it? And I'm sure, you have a few selective clients, that called you and they want to sell their homes, they want to sell their property. What is
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I do it. I mean, mainly I got the license. I got it in 2015.
Okay.
I got it just because of, I guess, I want to have access to MLS. And I wanted to, be able to do my transactions, whatever you want to call it, either save some money or make a little money, from having the license. But if you're asking if I'll represent somebody or sell their house or whatever, of course.
Yeah. Okay. What is it? Anybody that's, they've been watching the podcast, anybody that wants to know a little bit more about Miguel, want to reach out to Miguel, what is the best way to reach out to Miguel?
Like my phone number or like my
Instagram platform?
Well, so I just got on social. Well, not just. I got on social media in May of last year, and I think my thing is buy, sell, 928. Buy, sell, period, 928.
Buy, period, sell, 928.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you guys want to follow, make sure you send the right contact to buy.sell928, and that's where you find Miguel, and that's on Instagram. Is that the platform you use?
Yeah, that's the only one that I have.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, I just got on, and I was like, if I go on too many, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
It's gonna be too difficult.
Too many passwords.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you guys want to find a little bit more, you want to contact him about a home or an investment, make sure you guys send him a DM, and that's the platform that you use is Instagram. So going through all this, through all the experience in your life, I know you recently had an experience, and you mentioned that it's not all fun and games and driving fast cars and making millions and flipping and doing all this stuff, right? Like there are also struggles through those moments, right? I know off camera, as we talked a little bit about, sometimes because you gone through this experience of being homeless and not having a dad figure, like there's sometimes like you felt some type of abandonment. And recently you had an experience that you met your your dad for the third time, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
So I got this thing with, and I just now, not too long ago, maybe, I don't know, a few weeks ago or last month, I have this thing that I went through or whatever, that I struggled through my whole life, but I just finally, I don't know, admitted it to myself or realized it, that, I struggle with this like abandonment, you can say wound, that I didn't have a dad growing up. Like you mentioned, I just met him for the third time, like last week. I hadn't seen him in over 20 years. Also with my mom would leave me. She's not going to like this. I don't even think she's going to hear this or whatever, but she would leave me for long periods of time by myself. She sent me to go live to Mexico City when I was 7, basically by myself. It was her brother, but he, I had never met him, so he's a stranger to me. I lived there for a year, basically cried myself to sleep like I'm not a victim or any of that stuff, but
No.
that's just how my life was when I was young. Cry myself to sleep, so I kind of, as I got older and I had this like success and I made some money and whatnot, when I was 30, when I was 35, when I was 40, I was like, how can I care about this stuff, or how can I worry about this stuff, or how can this stuff affect me when I have, this, I have money, I have cars, I have houses, I have a family at that time, I have kids, I have a wife. Like, how can this stuff bother me? But I just kind of found out or realized that it did bother me. I felt like I wasn't accepted from this like family that I had, that I really didn't see or that I really didn't meet. So it helped me.
It helped you with coming back and,
Yeah, and kind of realizing like it's okay, and whatever the situation was, they did the best they could. And I just kind of, have to accept that and be okay with, the fact that, this is some of the stuff that happened to me.
Okay. So that's and that's, thank you for sharing that, man, because, a lot of people, have the courage to share something like that. But, just like, as you're mentioning, like, even though you're having a tough experience, sometimes those experiences help us to create even a better future and a better legacy for our kids as well, right? Because having now the example and going through that, some of the setbacks or some of the fears that you had, you face them and you improve them and you leave that example for your kids, right? So
yeah, it's kind of breaking the cycle. I have this cycle, and I learned, I felt this, or have this fear, or I had this fear of abandonment. And obviously I want my kids not to have that, that fear, but, that's kind of what I've kind of lived with my whole life, is just, left alone, whatever. But it was disguised by having all this other stuff. And I really didn't feel it, but it came up as in like, in my, my partner could be like, I'm going to go have dinner with so-and-so. And I would be like, what? You're leaving me?
Yeah.
No, don't leave me.
Yeah.
You can't leave me.
Yeah.
So I would have this like, it's like I'm fighting for my life, but it was my subconscious basically saying like, your mom left you, your dad left you, they're going to leave you. So again, it was disguised by stuff. But this is what I'm working through. And this is why I'm doing this podcast, because this is something that I would never do, ever. And again, like my partner, whoever, whatever, they know firsthand, like I would never do this stuff, because I don't want to share, stuff about me. So part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I know that this is going to benefit me, and the way that I approach things and my feelings towards some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome, man. You're welcome. And you're definitely not alone, man. God is always with us, and, knowing that, I think that, definitely brings a lot of confidence, and some of the things that we also talked, within the podcast, and, and you've done well, man. So,
yeah. And I will say, I decided to do this with you because you have been a good friend, and I could tell that you're genuine. And so that was important to me. It wasn't just somebody who's like, oh yeah, come to a podcast and whatever, and they could care less about me and whatever. You have genuine feelings, so that's important. So that's why I'm like, I kind of was like, let's do this.
Appreciate that, man.
So,
no.
And this is my first one.
There you
It's
go.
not the best,
First of many.
but I am gonna do more. And the next ones, I guarantee you, are gonna be much better, and they're gonna flow a little bit better. Just because I'm getting the hang of things. And when they take that thing off, that camera staring at me, I like just start. Just when they took it off right now, we're like talking, whatever, it flows. But as soon as that camera points at me, I get scared.
No, you done well, man. You done well. Like, you can't really even tell, but no, we appreciate to have you here in the show, man. Static Talks, and I'm sure like a lot of people, I know it had definitely helped you. That's ultimately our goal too. To bring value to to people that we do an interview as well, and listen to their stories, where they come from, and then you're also adding tons of value to the people that are watching us, and that stay tuned towards the end. I appreciate if you actually watch this full video towards the end. Make sure you send me a DM to either Miguel or myself, and let us know that you watched towards the end, and we'll have a gift. We'll send something cool for your way. Appreciate all the audience. Appreciate everybody that's watching us. And I think the biggest thing that I could say, no matter where your background is, where you come from, if you guys truly have a deep desire to accomplish something, be good in society, you could definitely make a positive impact. I know there's a couple things that we might have missed, but I'm sure we'll have another interview with bringing a lot of more stuff that Miguel has in store. I know you've done quite a few give backs to the community, and you also have you have something great coming, which you're working on your next venture and your next challenge in life, right?
Yeah, on the next one, maybe we can talk about probably what people care about, which is like how did you do it, or how do you do this, or how do you buy foreclosures, or how do you buy stuff?
No, this is good.
We could maybe discuss a little bit more in detail.
Okay.
Maybe on the next one, but
no, that's good, man. So talk us, within a few minutes here that we got left. Talk to us a little bit about what's coming for Miguel. I know you got.
Well, I think I'm gonna go into building houses. I think I'm gonna get what's called the KB2 license.
Okay.
Which means that you can build single family homes. You can build some small commercial stuff up to $2 million.
Okay.
I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm going to, challenge myself to maybe same like I've bought and sold a bunch of houses. I'm gonna build I think that's gonna be my next thing in terms of diversifying myself. And then over the course of the last maybe 18 months or 2 years, I've kept a lot more stuff. In terms of real estate. I didn't before. I was just caught up in buying and selling. In the last like 18 months, I've kept maybe about 40 properties.
Okay.
And I'm going to continue to do that.
Hey guys, so Miguel, 2024, man. It's already 2024. I know you got some big plans coming. You have had some success. I know you got some exciting plans coming up pretty recently. Can you let us know a little bit about what you got going on?
What I got going on? Well, like I said, I'm gonna get a license so I can. It's called the KB2 license, so I can get some construction going, single families, and then, like I said, commercial up to $2 million. Well, that's it. I'm gonna start focusing on that. Diversifying whatever I'm doing with that also.
Okay.
Because my focus is also going to be to, get to, I guess first initially get to 100 rentals.
Yeah.
I'm kind of halfway there. And then, get to a few hundred. Doors will be a reasonable goal.
Okay. And you usually the investments you keep in within locally, the area with no more than 25 mile radius, 30 mile radius. That's what.
Well, in terms of that, obviously Yuma, Somerton is like. In fact, I just bought a commercial building in Somerton like a couple weeks ago. Somerton is like awesome. I like that city. That's a good city. I think it's an up and coming city. San Luis, obviously is good. Welton.
Okay.
Is also kind of an up and coming city too. So yeah, any of those cities is good. I might want to go into Phoenix a little bit, but obviously Phoenix is a whole different market and
Different game.
yeah.
Okay, no, well, that's good. I mean, it has definitely worked out this past, years and decades that you've been investing, but that's exciting. You're looking into getting your license, and we definitely going to see a lot more of, the whole Florida's innovation. So
Cool. Yeah. And then obviously we've talked. We're gonna do some deals together.
yeah,
So we'll see what you and I
100%.
come up with.
100%. But well, thank you, Miguel. Thank you for being part of the podcast, and appreciate the time and the space, for having us here in your beautiful home here at the sunniest city on earth. So once again, guys, remember, if you guys watch all the way, make sure you guys let us know and send us a DM so we could get you guys the prize. But thankful and grateful to have you here, and thanks for the shot too, man. And if Clase Azul is listening to us, reach out, man. We love your product, and we want to know a little bit more about it.
Yep, that is true. We do. I would love to go to the facilities for Clase Azul.
All right,
I'm a Clase Azul fan. I love that stuff.
let's tag him, and we'll be waiting for an invite. See you guys soon.